Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I thank you for this opportunity to brief the Security Council on UNISFA, including its support to the Joint Border Verification and Monitoring Mechanism as set out in the Secretary General's report before you. I shall also update you on recent developments since its publication. Mr. President, despite sporadic incidents of violence, the situation in Abyei remained generally calm and stable. This is evidence to the efforts of both Ngok, Dinka and Miseria communities to preserve peace in the area. Here, I would like to emphasize that this was the first migration season since 2015 for which the situation no longer necessitated the implementation of the disengagement line. And I would recall that the disengagement line was instituted by UNISFA to prevent large-scale intercommunal violence during the annual migration of the Miseria and their cattle to the Abyei area. This situation has been made possible by the community's commitment to engage in dialogue to de-escalate tensions, coupled with UNISFA's proactive engagement with the communities and its robust military posture, particularly along possible flashpoints. At the same time, and regrettably, there was no tangible progress to the further political dialogue between Sudan or South Sudan and South Sudan on the issue of Abyei since the Council's previous consultations on the matter. The Abyei Joint Oversight Committee has not met since November 2017. Mr. President, let me now touch on the Joint Border Verification and Monitoring Mechanism. I welcome the adoption of Resolution 2465, renewing UNISFA's support to the mechanism. The parties made notable progress on 5 of the 7 benchmarks outlined within the last Resolution 2438. The parties maintained standing clearance for all UNISFA's patrols. 2 team sites were established in the 14-mile area of the safe demilitarized border zone within the reporting period, following extensive sensitization efforts by the South Sudanese local authorities to allay fears of border communities in the area. The Joint Political and Security Mechanism convened in ordinary sessions in October last year and March this year, meaning that these were not held under the auspices of the African Union High-Level Implementation Panel, as in past instances. This points to an improved relationship between Sudan and South Sudan. The border demarcation discussions were markedly advanced, with the parties deciding to demarcate agreed section on the boundary line between the Sudan and South Sudan. Regrettably, no progress was made on verifying border crossing corridors or establishing customs and migration offices. Additionally, redeployment of forces from the safe demilitarized border zone remains a challenge. In December last year, the team site at Tishwin noted the replacement of Sudanese military with police personnel at a camp within its area of responsibility, while the Safaha, Kir Adem, and Asumaya Wirayan team sites within the 14-mile area continue to observe South Sudanese military presence. Let me now turn to UNISFA's operational challenges. With regards to the changing situation in Sudan, thus far, there is no visible adverse impact on UNISFA's operations, and it is too early to say whether this will provide opportunities for the settlement of the Abyei dispute. The mission maintains contact with working-level interlocutors to ensure continuity of operations. However, the mission and this headquarters remain watchful of any issues that might hinder mandate implementation. With regard to the Council's request in Resolution 2445 for the reconfiguration of UNISFA, particularly the troop reduction and police increase, there have been delays in the process. For the first phase of reductions, 360 troops were set to be repatriated by 15 March. This has not yet taken place for reasons including the helicopter crash on the 9th of February, which created a shortage in air assets and the current situation in Sudan. I would take that opportunity to pay tribute to the 3 peacekeepers from Ethiopia who lost their life as a result of this tragic incident. There are plans to start the repatriation progress on the 12th of May to be completed within a week. As for the increase in police personnel, while the selection of individual police officers and the formed police unit has been completed, 130 visas from the government of Sudan necessary for their deployment remain outstanding. This particularly affects a team from Jordan needed to conduct a technical reconnaissance mission to Abyei before the deployment of the formed police unit from that country. As criminality remains the biggest challenge in the Abyei area, I request the Council to urge the parties to take further steps to address law and order matters. I would like to take advantage of this meeting to request Sudan to issue visas expeditiously to facilitate the deployment of UNISFA's police personnel. In the same regard, I would ask South Sudan to move forward with the joint planning exercise for the establishment of the Abyei Police Service. Also, pursuant to the request in Resolution 2445, the report before you proposes an augmented civilian component in UNISFA to support the political process. The proposed civilian component would enable the mission to support the parties, the African Union High-Level Implementation Panel, and the African Union Commission to advance day-to-day solutions. This modest shift of the mission's role is necessary to match the reality on the ground. The proposed support is particularly pertinent given the difficult internal circumstances in both countries. It is important to prevent the dispute over Abyei and the border regions between Sudan and South Sudan from becoming another frozen conflict and preserve the gains achieved by UNISFA. Mr. President, UNISFA continues to play a stabilizing role in the Abyei area and along the border regions. However, the mission can only provide a conducive environment for the parties whose own efforts remain essential to progress. I am encouraged by the significantly improved relations between the two countries in the past year, as evidenced by Sudan's role in facilitating the revitalized peace agreement reached by the South Sudanese parties and the resumption of joint oil operations. Sudan and South Sudan should continue this positive trajectory and extend their cooperation to move forward on the resolution of their disputes. In closing, let me reiterate that it is imperative that the gains achieved by UNISFA, as well as the communities in Abyei, be preserved and used to advance towards a political resolution of the border issues between Sudan and South Sudan. I seek the continued support of the Security Council for the Secretary General's recommendations as set out in the report before you to continue the reconfiguration of the mission and extend its mandate by another 6 months. Thank you, Mr. President.